we're talking about Pan, right? It's nice of you to come down and, and have a session with us in terms of your podcast and learning where the development of the handling within the context of Western. So can I tell us how what you said? I just want to...
I was going to wait until more people come in.
No, but basically, I'm from a family in Pinapuna, Canada, where the family had a band in the yard called Nightingale, and developed myself into becoming an arranger, also a player, and having kids in Vancouver, and trying to get the youth and them out here for the same with my grandchildren. And other than that, I'm pretty open to any sort of help you may need to give you the suggestions of how you can foster getting things much better in even if not just in Western, but in Alberta. But we on the side have to see about ourselves,
right,
to facilitate anything that you may want to do. So that is about me.
That's about you.
Yeah.
And how about you in the back there, sir? Want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, Kenneth Headley, Kendrick's son. That's how people know me. And yeah, super excited to be here with everybody, but really appreciate all the work our two friends from Alberta are doing to showcase Pan around the world. The conversations, the history, the traditions, the culture, the vibrations of the instrument, reverberating all around the world through Instagram Live, and the great conversations that you're having with many young and old leaders in the industry. It's really good to see. So thank you for the opportunity to talk with you.
Of course. So we are in Vancouver.
They are.
We're in Vancouver. How is Pan in Vancouver for you guys? Because I've talked about Pan in Alberta too many. We need to know what's going on over here.
Okay, so Pan in Vancouver, in the very early, we had more bands than we have now. So we had probably about 5 bands at that time. And there were Moonlighters, there were Sunset Cavaliers, there were Trinidad Cavaliers, there were Soul Survivors, and a band called Supertonic.
Okay.
And some of those bands have gone, not just players not playing, they just subside. Right? Right now, the only band that we have in Vancouver is Phase
3.
Phase 3 still band. And we are a band built off of, how should I put it, the members that we have very close, right? And our music is not panoramic.
Right.
So we are based on a band that does functions when it's available.
Right.
Right. So we have vocals.
Okay.
And we don't use pan. The bass, we use a string bass to carry the band.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Because again, you're looking at transportation.
Yes.
If you have 6, and we used to do that a lot.
We still do that.
So in other words, then we have our band is about 8 people.
Okay.
Right, and we was fortunate to get Gary to join our band.
He's in the background.
Yes.
Gary,
but I don't know much about Gary in sense, but I know him, seen him in Trinidad. Right. And I think the only time I came close to him more than here is the time Phase 2 was playing by Invaders in the little bar place.
Right.
And I went over to listen to the band, and I saw Gary, and I said to myself, he was a good gentleman. And did not know at the time that when I spoke with Movin, he said that is his good friend. And so when he came here again, I know he had opportunities to play with other people. And when he came and he joined the band, we were happy to have him, right? Not much credit, you know.
Right.
One thing I could say is that I feel I have a little bit of Gary help, giving them a little bit of assistance in soloing. He just turned out to be a very good soloist with the tenor band. Because when he first came, I listened to him, and anytime he wanted anything, he would say, "What do you think?" And I would say, "Okay." And then I said to him, "You got to do more soloing." So that is how we got him in the band, and you know, it had paid out very well.
That's good.
And my son,
yes.
well, he has from very small, from a tender age, like myself, he has developed into a very good pianist, soloing and helping do some of the arrangements. Sometimes I leave him alone, let him do the arrangement.
Yeah.
So fully our band, as I say, we have a vocalist, which is Jeffrey Davis, and 2 grandsons just within the year or so started playing. And I don't play double second. I play the cellos with the band, And Gary always behind me. So when I don't know why he likes it. And the cellos, you know. But basically we know much more could be done, but we do have a problem in terms of a place that is
like yours?
that we practice.
That's good.
Yeah, we have to find a place almost every time.
Oh.
Where I lived before, we could have practiced.
Right.
But within this community, noises are very, you know, and you have neighbors who, they haven't complained because we don't say loud.
Right.
You know, but that is one of the things that give us a little bit of slowing down rather than anything. So, my son, you can say.
You want me to talk now? I mean, Phase 3 has been, I started playing in that band as a little boy. It was the first band I ever played with, but you know, the history of Pan in Vancouver has been around since the 1960s with Moonlighters, playing at Cosmos Club and all those places. Wilson Wong Moon and you know, some of the other bands like Jeffrey Cadigan's Sunset Cavaliers and those bands, they were performing at a high level at that time. Orvis Noel and his band performing. That's how you got out here, was through Orvis's band. Coffee Dregs was the band that kind of started to take a little bit more prominence in the 80s, and then you know, a little break off subsidiary that became Phase 3, and there were members of that band. And that band, when it initially started, was phenomenal. They had a bunch of players: Mike Lean, his brother George, Aga, Jenner. There was a group of players that were doing high level music. Some of those members decided to open up their own band, and that's kind of where I came in. We had a bunch of gigs with a guy by the name of Dave Clark at the time, and we were hosting the Commonwealth Games in '94, and there was a bunch of gigs that they had to do. And since the band split up, Dad came to me that summer and said, "Hey, we play in Trinidad. You just play with us out here a little bit. Do you want to come and be a part of it?" And so that's where I got the opportunity to come and start playing with the band. And you know, I think of names like Hamish Noel, who should be in Edmonton as well. Like, Hamish and Dad go way back to Trinidad and Flamingos and playing over there, and then coming over here to play because it was Hamish's brother Orvis who started the band out here. And so there's a lot of history. Soul Survivors, Jero and those guys, Bambi from Panama North Stars and Guinness Cavaliers and those guys. There's lots of credible players here, but right now I would say Phase 3 is kind of the band that pushes a little bit more here. You know, we, as Dad said, we have Gary, and Gary's a phenomenal player out of Phase 2, and we're lucky to have him. And Adrian Hartley, who's another Phase 2 guy. Not really. He plays in Phase 2. His cousin is Dougie Redon, so Dougie would know who Adrian is. And Adrian, I think, played with Phase 2 in 2005 or 2006 when they won Panorama. Damien, who's in here with us as well from Toronto.
Damien! Do you want to make a little appearance?
A solid double seconds player, and so there's quality in some of the bands, but yeah, we're growing. But as we were talking about earlier, you know, what does succession look like? You know, we've been having conversations about, you know, how do we change the band to meet the times, right? And what does that look like? You know, every now and then you'll see us out there soloing a little bit when there's gigs, but Vancouver's an interesting spot. I think before COVID we were doing a lot more gigs in the summer and stuff like that. Since then, more people wanting just solo acts and so forth with backing tracks and stuff. So the platform has changed, but I will say the West Coast does have some talents in what we're seeing here tonight from Alberta and what's here in Vancouver. And if you go down, you know, into Seattle with Orby Qualis and the Twaits brothers, or one of the Twaits in California, you know, Robert Greenwich being based out of California, there is talent on the West Coast. And I know seems like Duvon's been spending a lot of time in like San Francisco and San Diego, kind of in the Bay Area there too. So it's good to see that Pan's making its place on the West Coast. But yeah, no, we're just trying to carry on the legacies that have been set by the people before us. Right? That's all, right?
My sister Sherelle, she had a comment saying, "I definitely did not know about the history in Vancouver." Yeah. So there's definitely a lot of history here. Like just talking to you guys since I got here. I didn't even know about the history. Yeah. I had to like go on. First of all, I didn't even know there was Pan here until I Googled Pan in Vancouver, and Phase 3 came up, and I'm like, I feel like you guys came down for Kerry West a few years, like a long time ago, or maybe a few of your members.
We never played in Kerry West, but we came down one year. It would have been like...
It was years ago.
Like early 90s or something that we came down, and I think we ended up playing in groups out there. But yeah, we never actually came.
You guys played one of mine. Yeah.
But we had a friend, actually a member in our band, Neville Carmichael, who's passed away. And Neville always talked about your dad and being a part of that group in Alberta, and talked highly about the musicianship out there. So that's how we knew about Alberta a little bit more.
Right.
But didn't know, like I'm being honest with you, it was only in the last year watching your podcast and Richard, like hearing about Richard and others, that knowing that, you know, there's bands in Calgary and Edmonton as well. So it's really cool to see what you guys are doing over there. It's impressive.
We're trying. We're trying to do our thing.
I think that's what everybody's doing. Right?
Yeah. You mentioned earlier about the successionship here in Vancouver. We briefly talked about it earlier. Do you guys have problems getting younger people interested in Pan? Do you find that an issue?
So Dad used to have a youth band through the Trinidad and Tobago Society. All those young players, there was 5? They're all in their 20s now, and only one kind of keeps in contact, Darian, to still play.
Okay.
We have people that always say their kids are interested.
Right.
Right? This is what we hear.
Yeah.
Oh, if you guys are teaching, kids are interested, and then when you're like, okay, let's get ready to go and reach out. Oh, they're playing soccer.
Right.
Oh, they're playing basketball.
Right.
And what I think could help a little bit is, you know, we have so many young panists that are leading programs, whether, you know, it's Kendall out in NYU or you know, just finishing out of Princeton there, or, you know, what was happening in Florida or NIU. You're talking about Alberta, you know, University in Alberta having a little steel band as well. I think the more we point to families that it's not just this thing that you want to do to keep your kid connected to the culture, but there's this opportunity for a career or opportunities for scholarship and learning. Yeah. I think that would keep them a little bit more focused in that sense. I just feel like right now in Vancouver anyways, most of our young kids from the Caribbean anyways are either I'm playing basketball, I'm playing soccer, I'm doing all these other things. So, you know, you might get them in the summer during Caribbean Festival or whatever, but outside of that, they're not as committed to the practicing or being a player. Right? So.
I was going to say, I think that's a bit of a problem that I've noticed anyway in Alberta. Everyone's always interested when it comes to the Caribbean Carnival and they hear it, they're like, I want to be in it. And then down when it's the quiet time, when it's time to like practice and show up, that's the problem. That we have.
Well, too, you know, you could look at it in 2 ways. One is that I always say that the early people, right, who came out, they did not have no interest in the band.
Right.
So it was not something that keep going from one set of family or one set of people to another. I had a joke at a time, I told one of the gentlemen who was on the flight going on for Carnival, he said, when I come back, I come in and learn to play pan. I said, okay, we will keep to that. And as soon as he come back, I say, hey, when you ready, come. He said, boy, that practice I see them doing in Trinidad. I ain't able with that at all.
Right.
So what he was trying to tell me, he don't have the time to allotted to do that, you know. But out here it's not that strenuous, because you're not going to practice for 6 hours.
Right.
You're going to practice for
an
an hour or two, right? And sometimes because we don't have a community center, which would have had all the different countries in that area, that we could have said, well, okay, this is what we have in, and have it on the board, and people, if they're so interested, would come. So that is one of the things that I find in Vancouver that we're lacking, a community center. Because, as again, from Grenada, from St. Vincent, from wherever you are, and you come, it doesn't mean to say that you want to play all the time.
Yeah.
But you may show a little interest, or there may be something else that that we could be doing. That say, well, we have a calypsonian coming, somebody who sing calypso out here, to train them and say, okay, we're doing a show and we want you to sing. May draw some interest.
Yeah.
But it is kind of, that's why I think it's our most pitiable downfall. Yeah. Not having a community center.
So do you guys have like associations, like a Trinidad association?
We have all the associations you ever come across.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we have so many associations that they split themselves.
Yeah.
Right.
You have the Trinidad and Tobago Cultural Society, but you also have the Trinidad Chinese Association.
It's like that. Okay.
We have the East Indian Community Center.
Okay. So, I mean, that's one part. I do feel that, historically, I just watching kind of, as Dad had, Headley Pan School and he was teaching. I think one of the big pushes from the Damians and the Adrians and the previous kids is that they wanted to play in Panorama. So we used to take people down to go back and play in Panorama, as they were learning, right? So they would get their year and a half or 2 years in, and Adrian came to us and said, I want to go play with Invadas. And so his training for the next kind of 5 months was Panorama training, so he would be ready to be successful in doing so. As with all kids, just what I see in education, you need something to grab them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And sometimes it's the performance, right? Sometimes it's traveling, or a scholarship or something, so the families feel committed to it. Lots of young families out here are saying, as their kids are learning their identities in school, yes, I want my kids to be connected to something, but again, when we're talking about paying, somebody will pay $50 for a piano lesson.
Same. Yep. Yep.
Right? But want you to teach for $15 or $20 and right? And just in that conversation alone will tell you how some people still look at Pan.
Yeah.
Right? The people at this table today, we've had some amazing conversations about where Panorama could go. We've had major conversations about what Pan could be doing differently. Gary showed us a video that he shared in his Phase 2 group, right? That we looked at with a guy in France and what he's doing. Yeah. We know the levels of where Pan could be. People still see it. I think lots of people out here still see it in one way. Right. And so that has a bit of an impact. But I mean, I also, our band, as committed as we are to each other, we really only practice during Caribbean Day season. Yeah. And we talk about doing more than that, but there's not a lot of gigs out there to continue that as well. So it's just passion over that time, right? Right. To do so. So there's a lot of things we could definitely be doing different. I would never say no to that. And Gary's always a good push in that way. He's one of those guys that wants to see it progress and wants to push Pan to be a little bit more noticeable or a little bit more popular in BC. Yeah. But our band members, some of our band members are getting older too, right? And they're at that age, so it's up to the rest of us to kind of sit down and talk about what we want to do next and where we want to go. And so those will be the succession questions moving forward. But I do think, knowing that we're around the same ages here, having that connection with Alberta and maybe, doing some stuff together might bring some some excitement.
Yeah.
In that way to bring more people in, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The reason why I asked you about the associations, because the band in Calgary, Pan Dynamics, they share a spot with the Grenada Association.
Yeah.
So that's their practice space.
Perfect.
So I was wondering.
Do they have a community center or do they
No,
have
it's
a
literally
place?
it's like a hall type of thing, and they practice there. I think Wednesdays and
none of our,
Saturdays.
I can't think of any of our associations having a specific place.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you know, I don't want to throw it down that way because you don't need 100,000 people to make a difference. But BC in general only has 40,000 Black people, and when you think of the Vancouver proper, 20,000 maybe.
Right.
In Vancouver proper.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. I feel like Alberta has way more Black people than BC. The census says that there's more.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's how people in Alberta feel, but
I know way too many people then.
It just feels that anytime the associations try to do something, somebody tries to undercut, or we can never just come together
and work as one.
And so that's something we'll try to do. And even when the associations sometimes call for us to play, it's like, hey, could you volunteer your time? We have this event. And it's like, well, I'm not saying anything for me, but nominated for a Grammy, toured with Liberace, arranges in Trinidad. He should at least be getting paid to
something.
You know what I mean? To come out. Like if you were calling somebody else that's a top 40 pop star to come out, you'd be paying thousands of dollars to have that person come out. So I still think there's this way that people look at us. Some of the gigs we get from our own people in the Caribbean community is like that. Hey, I'm having a party. Can you come and play? Yeah. What's the price? Okay, $400. Let's say we say $400 because we know you for a couple hours. The next thing you hear, woo, that's too steep, right? But then you show up and it's this like 5-star. Catering service and all this other stuff.
For the space, they're paying for the food.
Okay, look at you. You can do that. But when it comes to the entertainment or it comes to the instruments, it's still, So just things that we need to change in our process for sure. Yeah.
And I would probably say the same thing. Like I have that problem. When I say my price, they're just like, can I just pay gas money? And I'm like, you have me there all day. No, my time is money.
Totally.
My time is money.
From the minute I get in the car to the minute I finish playing, that's what you pay me for. Right?
Exactly.
That's what we do with everything else.
If you you don't have to, but on Facebook, a lot of the pan people now are hitting one another, saying, charge for your talent.
Exactly. I've been saying that.
A lot of do it, and even in New York, where they have a bosom of pan players, they may have more fighting than we do here because they got to live. They got to live.
Yeah.
And to live, you got to pay your bills. And if you're saying, Kendrick, 500, Quint, 600, Andre, 700. Johnny 400. Johnny don't have to be as good as them.
Exactly, they're paying.
And this is reality.
I'll never forget that Earl Pierre Jr. called us last year and said, "Hey, I have this gig that I'm playing here, but this company is looking for somebody in Vancouver. Can I pass the contacts?" I said, "Yeah." Called me right after. He said, "This is what I charge. Do not charge less than this."
Exactly.
And I was like, "Okay." And I was like, "Okay, this is where Earl's trying." We had the conversation. I was like, I said, "Dad, Earl's a phenomenal player. And he's well known and does all this other stuff." And I said, "If he's telling you this is where we need to be, that's where we need to be. And if people don't want to pay that, then we don't go and play. We'll play for ourselves." But I'm not driving all the way to Harrison or any of these other places out in the valley to go play for $50 or $100.
Yeah.
And if you're calling me to go play out there for 3 hours, you pay me to go play there. I'll never forget him for that because he did change the way I looked at that last year when he called me. He said, "Hey, you don't pay for less than I'm playing for. If anything, charge more and make sure you get your parking covered and make sure you do this."
Yeah.
And it was eye opening for me to see that he sent me the contract to look at. It was eye opening to look at it and go like, "Oh yeah, Dad, he is saying this and this and this, and it needs to be done by this time." And so I think it's a little bit different than how we used to operate out here, a little bit. And so we're in that transition phase. But as I said, we have members that are getting older. Dad will play until he can't play, right? Like we were saying, people will die with pad stick in their head, and not for a while, but,
Yeah.
but that's what we want, and so be it. But yeah, there's some transitions that needs to happen out here, and my boys are just starting up. I mean, my oldest boy, he will sing 2 or 3 of our songs. So the band has changed kind of the way we've operated the last couple Caribbean festivals, because we used to allow our main singer Jeff to sing all our songs, but as he's gotten older and had some medical issues as well, he's kind of pulled back. So my oldest son Nathaniel, we will get him to sing some of the newer songs that we want to play, so it connects to the community a little bit. And so he's not a soca singer in any sense. So he would struggle with a hello from Kess or whatever. Yeah. But he's okay singing any type of reggae and stuff like that. And so just really trying to figure out what is our vibe as we move forward as a band and what we'd like to do. Right. So, yeah.
When you guys are gigging out here, are they asking for a specific genre, or are they just like, you play what you feel, or do you play?
Well, I think Phase 3 historically just played whatever we wanted to play.
But you played your audience.
But as a soloist, they do ask, and you have to try and accommodate as best as you can. Because sometimes they ask you to play, a pop song, and you have to figure out, well, okay, what is the best songs that you have to play that they would recognize. But a lot of times too is that a lot of people don't really hear the difference, because I'll give you a song as a joke. About 6 years ago, I played at a function. Right? And I really played. So the guy came up and said, "Oh man, I wish I had you in Barbados playing." And then the lady stand up by him and say, "Well, I don't know for you, but I enjoy what they play in Barbados, because I didn't understand what they play." That's how she went. And I say to myself, how come you could say this? I'm here playing songs that you recognize. Barbados you'll recognize it much quicker than you recognize, because the song they will play. And I think what you were saying, because I never play Yellow Bird, I never did play Jamaica Farewell. So I figured out that's what she wanted to hear, because they said that's what they heard in Barbados. So different functions have its appeal, but when it comes to the festival, the people want to hear, or the band would like to play as much soca as possible, because we have other entertainment groups that sings reggae and all of that. So we might do one reggae or two, but look, Gary's sitting there too, and he's could come in and join in and give you 2 cents.
I have a different take on it.
What is your take?
My take is, if we don't have vocalists, we should go instrumental. And when we go instrumental, we have to make sure that we put in the best foot forward with that instrumental. I don't know how many people in BC really have heard a steel band, as opposed to a band singing vocals with steel band in it, right? And I think it might be a little bit of a different experience, and I think we could look to embrace that opportunity until such time as we find vocalists, and drummer.
Oh, you don't have a drummer?
No, it's drum machine.
Okay.
Right, but there's power in. When I say power, I don't mean volume, but there is power in pan instrumental, right? And I think that if we embrace that opportunity to do more instrumental music, I think we have nothing to lose by trying it and seeing what the reception would be. I think it would be an interesting thing to try. With regards to Pan and BC is, in my opinion, not in a healthy position.
In what way?
But in a, not because of anybody's fault or whatever. We don't have resources. Like as Kenneth pointed out, the population of people who have a natural affinity to Pan and a natural familiarity with Pan is very small.
Right.
Certainly smaller than compared to even places like Alberta and Saskatchewan and stuff like that, which is surprising. But I mean, BC is the furthest west you could get away from the islands.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And as I tell people, it takes longer to travel from Toronto to Vancouver than it takes to travel from Toronto to Trinidad. That's how big Canada is.
Yeah, people don't realize that.
Right? They don't understand that.
Yeah.
So, from a resource standpoint, we have a challenge of getting young people to play. And so it has to be a targeted effort of targeting young people who hopefully will then encourage their friends or their friends seeing them playing in that environment and like, oh yeah, that's something I'd like to do.
Right.
And then they might want to come and tag along and see how they do it. But the way how it was done in Toronto, I know for sure, is through the schools.
Through the schools, yeah.
Right? And being able to offer PAN lessons, PAN tutorship, etc. in that environment, in that school environment, is critical if you want to grow the instrument.
Right.
Especially amongst younger people. You probably have a better chance of attracting maybe an older demographic trying to learn PAN rather than the younger demographic.
Right.
PAN, for better or for worse, is still seen as a novelty by many.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And what we're trying to do is to buck that and try to show, well, no, PAN is a...
It's like a piano. We can do anything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right? But for them, it's that go to the Caribbean, go and sit on a beach, get a umbrella drink, and hear Deo.
Right.
Or,
Yellow
Banana Boat song or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And that is their experience of PAN. Right? In other areas, in other parts of the world, especially more now Europe and USA, etc., you're seeing where it's becoming a lot more known.
Yeah.
But out here, it's still boonies.
Yeah. Yeah, I get
Right?
that. Yeah.
And so that is a challenge. That is a challenge here. When I first came out here, it had at least 4 bands.
Right.
Today, it might have 1.5.
Okay.
And that one, which phase 3, band getting older, members getting older, etc. None of us, and thank goodness for Kendrick's sons, in terms of them coming aboard and showing interest and wanting to learn, but it needs to go beyond that too.
Yeah.
For it to sustain.
Yeah. Have you guys thought of doing something with University of BC or any other universities or colleges here? Just as an after school program?
We had those conversations.
We had those conversations.
And it's gotten nowhere?
It's interesting because I appreciate what Gary's saying, and I agree with him 110%.
Yeah.
I feel that University of British Columbia, I think it was like 3 years ago, they had a guy do a video about steel pad in Vancouver or whatever, and I don't even think he used a steel pad player from Vancouver.
Wow.
I think he used other people's music from other places, and it's not to say I may be corrected on that one, but I'm pretty sure I'm accurate on this. The universities, PAN will always be the first thing to go when you start to build, right? Or if you're losing money or anything like that, right?
Yeah.
The one successful school organization in the Surrey School District was done by Bernard Fernandez. It was all his own PANs. The district didn't give him any funding for anything like that. I think those are conversations we've tried to have even with the Ministry of Education as well. Is kind of after George Floyd and everybody was talking about blackness and how can we pull kids together. I did have that conversation with people at the ministry about school and all those pieces as well. Again, I think it's shifting those minds, right?
Yeah.
I think in Ontario, as Gary pointed out earlier, you have a large number, influx of Caribbean families and Caribbean kids. I mean, I always hear Earl of them talk about Humber and playing through there. I hear about you know, the master's degrees that are coming out of York in steel pan, right? Like there is a infrastructure there that is not here yet. Not to say we won't try or we haven't tried. I just don't think we've had the uptick, and I think part of that is because there isn't a huge number, right? So people then go, well, who are you going to bring to do this? Who would be interested? It's like, well, it's going to start off small. The more people play, the more they hear, the more opportunities. When Dad used to run his school, it was myself, Justin, Elijah Serenade's son. I think when we were Shelly, there was probably 7 or 8 of us that were playing as kids, who are in our 40s now, or late 30s, early 40s, and I'm the only one that's still playing, right? And they all still come over and talk and say, hey, would love to come back and play. And I'm like, yeah, bring your kids, man. Like, let's go, right? Like, my kids are here. Let's do it. But I think they're, you know, people's life get busy. I think expense is another thing for people, right? And
they don't want to pay for the.
I mean, I think on our end, I would totally say that I need to do more in applying for grants and stuff like that to get started. But you know, I also think it takes a community, right? Like we are just kind of the knowledge keepers of this right now. But if we had a board, let's say a group of people that were committed, as Gary said, a targeted group to say, this is what we're doing. You're good at grant writing, so you take on that piece. We'll focus on the teaching in that piece. We'll find a place or whatever. I think that if we could get a concerted group together that are interested, I think we could do some good stuff out there.
Another challenge.
I see 5 over there watching football.
Yeah. They are watching football. Steel powder football.
Another challenge that we have. I've been out here since 2000. I was given this amazing going away present from Toronto. My brother Earl gave me a pan that was tuned by Earl Powell.
Okay. Yeah.
Right? I have that pan now from 2000 till now 2024. And that pan has been tuned once by the only tuner I ever knew out here, which was Kendrick knew the guy. His name is Boots, who unfortunately has passed away. Right?
Yeah.
But outside of Boots, I don't know who tunes in BC. I'm not sure.
I don't think there's anyone.
The only other person now that and I think he's in Virginia, in the Virgin Islands, which is Morgan. Morgan
lands in BC.
So if I need to get my pan blended, I have to send it to the Virgin Islands. Right. Or Toronto to get a tune. Like, again, that is a infrastructure issue, a resource issue.
Yeah.
Right.
But I want to go back to something Gary talked about earlier on. I think was in the 80s that I went and played with a guy. He was the conductor for the Royal Academy out in Vancouver. And he had suggested that we get into the universities. All right? But the same thing Kenneth said. I said, we have a lot of Japanese kids in Richmond. That is how he put it. He said, well, I'm going to talk to them and see. But he said, you know, they all play the violins and things like that. It didn't say he wasn't trying, but it never developed at all. How much phone calls and things we get into. And Bernard had a school, and out of that school, he had got about 20 kids playing. And only one kid now plays the pan with his band. Wow. So it's something that is very hard to put your mind on how this, you know. I think the thing that we have, that I always trying to accomplish is if we can find a place that will hold all the pans. That's where we practice. We have that for 5-10 years. Then we can develop, or should be able to develop a schedule, you know. Because just for them, I just the place that we practice, I just spoke to the lady, all right, and she says, sure, we would like to have the band, all right, and the hint I get is that, well, you know what you paid the last time.
It's not the same.
It may not be the same thing, you know. So I tell, listen, I'll come in and sit down and we will talk and see what is the best way that whatever we're supposed to, if it could, we could have some conversation to minimize a cost. So then the members and them in the band have to come up to pay for practice, right? Now we have a little bit of money in the bank, but you don't want to utilize your money in just the practice, because if you have to tune somebody come out from Toronto and you want your bands, you don't want the members and them doing that. The band has to take up that cost, you know. So there's many things that even if we have the ideas, but we don't have the resources, that makes it very difficult. Right? And you know, Gary and as he said, I'm getting much older, right? But I still like to see them being the ones that carry on this, because if I say I'm not playing and they say they're not playing, we have no playing. You know, and
so I guess I'm playing forever.
You're stuck.
but it's love, right? It's a labor of love, but yeah.
You say that.
but also also it's interesting that as Gary puts it, is that I train about 5, 6 kids, and out of those 6 kids, only two went down to Trinidad and played. That was Adrian and Justin. And Justin, he played with Invaders, and when he came back, he never come back by the pants. He didn't see that as part of his.
Interesting.
You know,
basketball.
Basketball. Yeah, he was
also
in
6
that
on 5.
time.
Like,
Okay.
He played for the
Basketball.
University of Alberta.
So,
but until people, I think maybe it's. I don't want to make anybody mad, so I'll be careful. But until people see the value of it, so it wasn't until, you know, I think I got a little bit of push of kids after I left to go to Florida when I was with Quentin, those guys, because people are like, oh, there's a scholarship you could get for it, right? There's this other thing that if my kid's not succeeding in something else, there's something else to fall back on.
Yeah.
But you all know Pan is not a fallback on type thing, right? If you're gonna put the time in, you gotta practice, right? And really, you know, like I shared with the kids I was with today, like you gotta love the tradition, you gotta love the people, you gotta love the culture, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know if people get to that point. I think there's some people that get to that point. I would have thought Justin was the closest. Well, Adrian is the closest to that because he still plays to this day.
Right.
And he had success, right? Like he went and played with Phase 2. They won a panorama that year, so his cousin helps Bugsy out quite a bit, so he's connected that way, and he sees the success of that. But there's a lot of things that Vancouver definitely needs to work on. I mean, there's talent here. I will say that within the people that are in the group, there's some talent and some history. I mean, when you talk about history of arranging and kind of the growth of Pan in North America, I mean, there's not many people that have done more than he has on that level, right? So there's knowledge here and this experience, and I've been lucky enough to be blessed with some of that. I mean, Gary's lived experience with Phase 2 and Bugsy and what he's traveled and done in Toronto and stuff gives us that as well. I mean, back in the 80s, there was a time here where Pan was flying at a place where guys like Jimmy Phillip, who's a master innovator and tuner, was drumming for the band out here. Sal Wilson moved his family out here to be out here because Pan was a thing, like just before kind of Expo 86 there and stuff. Bands were flying, right? But then there, as you know in this instrument, there's egos and all those other things that come into play. And it's so cool to see the pioneers that were here before, when you get to sit with them and talk with them and hear their stories and the experiences. But it's also saddening because there's this whole culture here that was, like I said, 1965, 66, you got Cosmo's Club, you know, Moonlight and the Applewhites, all these Trinidadians who came out here
Yeah.
And because of their loss of identity and culture from being away, grabbed onto this thing.
Yeah.
Right? And played, right?
Yeah.
And loved playing. And we don't see that in our youth as of right now.
Right.
Right? And even when I play at schools, like I could play Justin Bieber, I could do all that stuff, and kids are excited when they hear it because they can connect to it. It's something new, it's something fun. But after that, what else is there? Right?
Yeah.
They're not running at the door to knock, and no matter how much you try to pull people in. Like I said, I find the athletics piece is the piece that comes out first.
Yeah.
Oh, it's basketball season, they don't have time and stuff. So it's not until I think the day of Caribbean Days, when we finish off stage and we're packing up, that is the day that everybody says, I want lessons and I want my kids. And then a week later, you don't hear from them.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then it's not until next July that you'll
Same
see
people.
that. Right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the idea that you guys have been talking about in the terms of maybe a Western Canada or an Alberta association that grows to kind of Western Canada, an opportunity where maybe we can bring some kids who are just starting out to come out and see what other kids are doing in Alberta. Social media is so beautiful nowadays where you could connect with people and have friendships and all that stuff. I remember going down to New York as a kid, 13, playing in New York Panorama and meeting all these young guys who I still talk to nowadays, because that was the culture, that was our group, right? They'd come pick me up 8 o'clock in the morning on their bikes and we'd drive through Brooklyn and have all that fun, right? And so I think with social media there's an opportunity to build some closeness between us, between Alberta and BC, and start to build a little bit more together. So I'm
that's kind of the reason why I wanted you guys to come to the showcase this year, because that's like there were kids in Pan Dynamics that saw Andre and they would never see Andre.
Yeah.
But just to see what Pan can do for you later on.
Oh yeah.
So to have you guys there, to have bands that are like Callisto, they're an older band.
Yeah.
Just to see, okay, there's something that we can actually do to help you guys maybe succeed in Vancouver.
Yeah.
So it's like the showcase is, again, to showcase all the bands in Western Canada, but again, to bounce ideas off each other.
Yeah.
To get ideas. We're like, okay, well, we tried this worked for us. Maybe you can try it and see if that works for you. Or we did that. Don't go down that road kind of thing. Yeah. So, like I said, if you guys can come next year,
I would love to be there.
Yeah.
For sure.
I have a question. So there's technology in Pan, right?
Yeah.
So now you have apps that you could that apparently Andy Narell have an app where you could play on your phone or something like that.
Yeah.
Well, there's a digital pan, and then there's Indigisounds. And yeah.
So do you need to be physically present for lessons in order to teach players to play?
No.
In other words, how accessible is the digital pan, whatever form that takes, to a beginner who wants to learn, and you deliver your class via Zoom or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, there are lots of people. There are even people out of Trinidad that are teaching people all across Canada through Zoom or whatever. I mean, I think one of the big things they ask for is for you to have your actual pan, so you're
but in the absence of an actual pan, that's what I'm talking about.
You can definitely teach. I mean, the digital pan app is probably one of the better ones that I've seen in the terms of the ability to like sensation and touch at the same time, like you're hearing as you're touching it with your hand. If you had an iPad, it'd still be a little smaller than the.
Because I'm thinking, like, for a beginner, it's not like you're doing a panorama piece of work, but it's very basic.
Scales,
very scale, very,
all that
teenager scale, etc. Right? And if it's basic, and if you can get the feel, approximate feel of what it is to play the instrument digitally, that might generate interest enough for you to want to come in person.
Sure. Yeah.
And
I mean, you could definitely have open house nights like that, where you're, for sure. Yeah.
That's a thought.
Something to think about.
I think one of the things out there too is that people who want to learn to play the pan or
it's a good idea.
is the fact that they don't have an instrument, and which you alluding to there now, but it's a costly venture for them, so you don't see them as having the interest.
I understand, but
Yeah.
what the digital pan, in my theory, means is that you don't need the physical instrument. You just need access to a computer and an app or whatever, even on your phone, right? And so you say, okay, locate. I'm assuming that the notes are notated on the screen.
Yeah.
So I want you to play C, D, E, F, G, for example, and do it in this way: C, D, E. Repeat after me, and you do that, and then you get them to learn remotely. And again, you're just doing very basic stuff. And again, I'm just wondering about how feasible is that to.
It is with the Digit app, the Pan app, the tenor layout. Again, I'm going to go with layouts. We've had this conversation before, guys.
Yeah.
The layout for tenor is
Fourths and fifths.
standard. But when you go to double second, guitar,
It is different.
it's very different.
100%.
So if you're learning on that app in, we'll say, Guppy, a Guppy
low E or
double second, and you're
yeah.
going to Augustus double second,
Yeah.
you're going to get confused and frustrated.
But the thing about it is that in itself is an issue for pan,
Yeah.
right?
Standardization.
It have no different type of piano,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
All the keys is the same.
Yeah.
All the notes are the same,
yeah.
right? It should be the same for pan,
It should be. And I've had,
right?
like the viewers know, we've had a lot of conversations about
So
doing that.
whatever you
I don't think
teach,
Richard agrees. This is great.
whatever
He likes his Guppy. But Ricardo just said collaboration is key for Pan in Western Canada. Sorry, it's kind of hard to read, but
No,
it is.
but that's the thing though. Expand this idea of learning to now collaboration
yeah,
between
Different
Alberta
places, yeah.
and BC, etc.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And there's synergy there
Yeah.
as long as there is will.
yeah, 100%. And another
But as long as, again, assuming the technology works.
yeah, and the next thing,
Right.
because I've taught, I don't know if you followed my Instagram page, but I teach with the Jumpy Pens
Yes, I
in
saw
schools.
that.
Yeah,
I think
in
that's
schools,
great.
and during I think we were out of COVID and then we came back in. I was teaching through Zoom, and just the delay
Sure.
with that pan,
Yes.
like it will be in and out,
Yeah.
and it's hard to be like, did you play wrong? I don't know if you played a wrong note, but I'm just gonna say, yeah, you did a good job, kind of thing. That's the delay that we have with Zoom. I don't know about Google Meets. It might be a little bit easier.
No, I think Zoom's the best.
Is the best?
product out there.
Yeah, it's just the
for
delay.
conferencing anyways.
Yeah, for conferencing. When it comes to music, it's hard to capture what you're teaching that person.
Understood. And again, in terms of tutelage,
Here, Gary,
I'm thinking- I'm thinking very. I think no, I good.
You don't want to be on camera, man.
No, I'm trying to. Gary's
I
talking.
good.
The
I good,
floating head. It's a floating head.
I
Come,
good.
just come for
I
a
good,
minute.
I good, I
man.
good,
Just
I
come
good,
for
I
a
good.
minute. Let
So-
them see your face for one
I
second.
good. So, for tutelage, I talk on very basic,
Right.
rudimentary, introductory, beginner to pan,
Right.
not anything advanced. And I'm assuming I never really teach no pan, so I
Yeah.
can't really say.
Yeah.
But from a rudimentary standpoint, it would be like literally bum, 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 or Mary had a little lamb, or whatever
Yeah.
it is, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know, even with a delay, I don't know how difficult it might be. I again, you would have the experience, so
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's a little difficult because I could hear your first note, your second note, and then it'll be quiet, and then I'll hear that last note. So I don't know what you did for those last 4 or 5 notes.
in
Yeah,
between.
Okay.
that's the only problem with Zoom that I've found so far. Even I was talking to
So
another.
how did Panagramma work?
They pre-recorded.
Yeah, they pre-recorded.
They pre-recorded. So they would record a week before Panagramma and send that in, and send the video in.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah.
You just keep talking. Should we go set up and have a little play downstairs?
Wait, you're playing pan?
No, we're just gonna go get things.
They're leaving me to play pan
No,
downstairs.
just keep talking.
Wow. Wait, you're gonna bring pan up here?
No,
No, you have to hear this man play.
Oh, we're gonna definitely hear you play.
No, but it is interesting to come down and have a different concept of how things are. And I would keep saying that is if the associations in them can get their act together and stop having it's not infighting.
Yeah.
Not outfighting. They just have and get away the concept Barbados is better than Trinidad and Trinidad is better than and I always go back to experience.
That will never stop.
Yeah, I'll go back to experience. In I think it was 19. It's in the 80s. We had Ian R. Robinson, the Prime Minister.
Yeah.
Was coming to Vancouver for the Commonwealth Conference.
Right.
Right. And I went to one of the, they had me come and I did not play. But they were having a function, right? And Trinidad never asked me to play, or association.
Right.
But the Barbados and Jamaica Association asked me to play. Right. So, and anyhow, I went and played. And the next evening, Jit and them were summer Jets were playing at the conference. Right?
Really?
Yeah, they were playing. So I played the Barbados anthem and the Jamaican anthem, and they played the Trinidad anthem.
Interesting.
Yeah. So the next day, they had which part all the Caribbean islands got together, and they had a little tea business,
Right.
And the lady who asked me to play for the Jamaican and the Barbados was a Trinidadian.
That's
so
crazy.
You see how we have been going through this revolution in terms of trying to get things done so that we could have a community. Now we had a seniors banner.
Okay.
Yeah, and this was through a guy named Mansion.
Yeah.
He was the president of the association.
Okay.
So I used to teach them. So out of all of them, I taught there was only one person alone when we had to play in the parade.
Right.
That could have played the song.
That's crazy.
Yeah, because they besides being seniors, right, I didn't think it was anything to do with knowledge or getting the music.
Yeah.
One said, you know what? I don't want to be on that rock. I don't want to, because he said that the constant drumming and everything was acting on him,
Yeah.
So I don't know if you look at it and say that we had a lot of misgiving in terms of where we should have been, but you can't go back.
Yeah,
you have to
go forward. Yeah, keep moving
so
forward.
we may be able to do things a little differently, but until we find a place where you got to leave all the drums here, right?
Yeah.
And then when I have to go and buy something to bring it in, I
do that.
barely could park my van in here because we had two vehicles. So sometimes I let my daughter back, because it's easier to steal a car than steal a van. So you have to do all these things.
Yeah.
So hopefully that as time go on, that we will be able to do much thing, but we'll have to see where the resources can fit in.
Yeah.
That is important.
Yeah.
I was trying to apply for a grant, and when I talked to the lady who does the grant for the association, she said it's very difficult for a single person to get a grant.
I wouldn't say that. For those that are looking for grants, what they're looking for is what you're gonna do for yourself and not the community.
For the group. Yes.
So once they see this is what I plan to do for my group, they just throw that aside. They want to see what you are going to do for yourself, and then take that outside.
Well, Kenneth and myself, mostly Kenneth does with this through the schools, and he said, "Okay, Dad, we were trying to apply for a grant, and see where it is." But I made a mistake.
Okay.
Some years ago, I had a meeting with Spark. We was going to form a Vancouver.
We're almost ending, but keep going.
Yeah, Vancouver association, right? And not knowing at that time if I had done it in, say, in society.